Yep.
All right, welcome to this version of the Hours with my friend Edward, and we are going to be talking about observations from the NBA play-in games. Okay, first question, Edward. Do you like the play-in or do you not like the play-in?
I do.
I love it too. I
Yeah.
feel like it just gives more urgency to these games.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
they've been so good.
Yeah. And you feel it towards the end of the season. I mean, normally in the end of the season, things are set, but now it's like there's two extra teams that get to make a difference. So I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. Okay. All right. Observations from the plan. Here's my biggest one. It constantly blows my mind, coaches at this level, the mistakes that they make at the NBA level. And I mean, we're human, you're under pressure. It's so easy to be like an armchair quarterback. But specifically at the end of both the Lakers Timberwolves game, and I was watching the Oklahoma City Thunder New Orleans game, how coaches continue to call needless timeouts at the end of the game that actually give up their advantage. So like specifically the multiple times that the Lakers called a timeout after the Timberwolves made a shot to then try to enter the ball in, whereas they could have just entered and attacked quickly. Twice in the end of the game in regulation and overtime, it resulted in turnovers for the Lakers, where the defense got to get set. They got to put pressure on the inbounder. And there was a turnover, one on a pass to LeBron and one on a pass to D'Angelo Russell. And they actually gave it up, whereas they could have just inbounded it quickly and played in transition. Saw it again last night where, a team went up one with like 10 seconds left. I think maybe it was I think the Pelicans maybe went up one on an Ingram bucket. An immediate timeout by Oklahoma City to allow the defense to get set as opposed to just inbound, get it to your best player and let them go. Okay, timeouts at the end of the game. I don't know if you have any response to that.
A lot there.
Yeah.
So I'll just throw out some random thoughts then for everyone. And I'm going to take this all over. So the first one is everyone knows it's coming to show you how thoughtless it's become. Like, when they hit that big bucket, you see the coach as the guy shooting it already starting to walk out on the court. Like, it's coming, right? Which means I don't know how much thought it is versus, and of course, we're not there, but how much thought it is versus how much they feel like that's just how it's done. Secondly, I think it speaks to, and this is a much longer conversation, but I think it speaks to that we actually do not coach through concepts. Because if you've believed in concepts, you would know that quick inbound and getting the defense in a version of transition is your best advantage. You bring in too many variables with sidelines out of bounds, as you saw in the Laker game. I mean, you got one of the best players in the world made a turnover in inbounds. When's the last time LeBron's made a turnover on sideline out of bounds? So it just shows it's just such a standard operating procedure that has been just adopted and regurgitated that no one's ever going, okay, what's the reason we're doing it? And the reason can't be because it's how it's been done, right? Like, that can't be the reason. And then you see what it does. Like last night, if you watched at the end when they fouled, I think the last time, and the Pelicans were out of timeouts. And the announcers are doing a great job of talking through all the scenarios. If he misses the second one, if he makes the first, what do you do? And they're going through all these scenarios, and you could see the look on the Pelicans' faces. They were like, what do we do? They're and so that now comes back to the most basic level for high school coaches that are listening to this. Like, anytime, like, you should be doing situational drills all the time. And I shouldn't even be drills. Sorry. You should be doing situational work all the time to where it is complete fail. Like, any game scenario that presents itself, they should have already failed and have those conversations countless times. Go up to your team. You're down 3 with the ball. They're in the bonus. So that means you got to score, stop, score. Figure it out. They're going to be really bad at that for a while. But if the first time they have to call it on demand is when it counts, you can forget it. Like, you really are at the mercy of the other team making the mistake. So I don't know what the timeout accomplishes, because are they telling them something they don't know? Or are you telling me an NBA player doesn't know where the advantage is? Or are you telling me that they don't know who has fouls? Because you can tell them that as the free throws are happening. That's your timeout. If timeout's about communication, you have 2 free throws, which NBA free throws take a while with the refs and the hold and all that. Like, you can partake in, or you can relay information right there that, hey, don't forget whoever has 5 fouls. Like, you saw Conley go right at LeBron the other night in transition, which he would normally never do, but LeBron had 5. So he attacked him straight, and LeBron tried to Olay it and then get it, but he couldn't. You can give those things the information without killing the option of the advantage. So yeah, I've never understood it. I still don't understand it.
Here it is. There's so much good stuff in there. So if I'm putting a bow on it, coaches, including NBA coaches, you're calling the timeout for you, not for your team.
Yeah,
that's it. You want time to think, like, oh, this is happening too fast. I need to think. I need to fully understand what's happening out there. You're doing it for you, right?
Yeah.
Or you're calling a timeout because you want to have some control over the game. You want to be involved, and there's nothing else you can do. Right? That's it. That's why you're doing it. And then go ahead.
No, and then, you know, it's the whole, like, you hear it all the time from fans, from, you know, now everyone has a sports show that talks about it. It's like, and they lost with 2 timeouts in his pocket. It's like, okay. And like, they act like guaranteed points. Right. They act like, well, you know, if you would call the timeout, it's like, it's just, it goes back to what you and I have talked about so many times for so many years in so many areas, on and off lines, to and from people, private conversation, you know, like the why. Like, why are you calling the timeout?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
And let me speak to that super quick. And this is an entire course and a cohort that we're going to be doing in Savvy Coaching, starting with why. Build your entire program identity off of your why. So 100%. If you picture this, right, your why is your roots. You got to put your roots down first. And then out of that why springs everything. And that's how the tree grows, right? You grow into, okay, here's our standards, here's our principles, here's our systems, and here's our skill sets. Whereas most coaches are like, oh, I want my players to be able to use a ball screen. And there's no why behind their ball screen.
Most coaches want the house with the man cave, and they haven't laid the cement of the foundation yet. It's like, well, I mean, I had this call with a coach the other day, and this is so relevant to our conversation. And he asked me, he's a head coach, college head coach, and he said, you know, I'm doing some reflecting, trying to get better. He says, you know, when do you think I should call a timeout to stop a run? You know, or what's the best way to stop a run? And, you know, that's a really great question. I think a lot of coaches struggle with and don't even know how to articulate. Because you all feel it, right? And this is similar to what we're talking about here. I know we're kind of going off here, but that's what we do. Is why are you calling the timeout, right? Like, and it shouldn't be about the run. And I guess here's what I mean by that, coaches. So if I see that my team is doing what we're supposed to be doing, hey, we say defensively we're living with X, and X is happening, what am I calling the timeout for? But if they have 2 possessions where our non-negotiable, our mission critical thing we said can't happen happens, I don't need to see the results of it. I'm calling a timeout because I know that over time, the math of that is going to come out and hurt me, because I know that, right? Just like if we come down offensively and we're getting good looks and we just can't knock it down, that's math. That's the basketball math. What I'm calling a timeout is just going to create insecurity in my team. But if we come down and take 2 or 3 horrible shots that I make, I know that this one isn't sustainable. I'm hitting the timeout now. I'm not going to let what a common fan would see and react to as a run be the run that calls a timeout for me. I know the result. I know the process that gets runs and prevents runs. And that's where you can instill real confidence in your team. You know, part of Phil Jackson's genius, people don't really know the story behind this like I do, but part of his genius was he believed in that. So when, you know, you remember back to those, and they would, you feel the run, and everyone would be like, here it comes. Every coach would call a timeout, and they'd look over, and Phil Jackson was like looking at his cuticles. That is just giving like, you're doing it. Just keep doing it. So yeah, that shouldn't be any different at the end of a game.
And like you said, they're gonna have to fail at that in order to win from that. You know, like, because every player is going to come in and have to play for you, having played for someone else, and they know when the other team goes on a run, it's an instant timeout.
Instant.
And then when you don't do it, they're going to be shocked, confused, frustrated, and they're going to play worse. And the other team's going to have an advantage or might lose the game, whatever.
Yeah. And high school coaches, hear this, and you're not going to like it. You're too worried early in your season. I mean, early in your season, November to January, about coaching games, and you should be teaching games.
Yes.
Those should be teaching games. Like, lose a game that, you know what, I could have called timeout, I could have whatever, and I could have manipulated that differently. You just lost to a rival 3 weeks from now in their away gym because you put training wheels on your team that you know they can't run fast enough those training wheels on, but you put them on them because you wanted to win that game and you lost the later one.
Yeah. Your record does not equate to you being the best version of yourself at the end of the season. Like, you can have a better record and be a worse version of yourself. You can have a worse record and be a better version of yourself. What do you want?
100%.
Yeah. And that's where timeouts come in. I'll add, another example of why you would call a timeout if your standards or your principles aren't being held or executed. Here's an instant timeout, and it's actually what's happening most of the time when the other team goes on a run. Your team's effort and attitude. If your team's effort and attitude isn't up to the standard, it's a timeout. And usually when the other team goes on a run, your team's efforts drooping and their attitudes are falling apart. And that's a reason for a timeout. It's not because the other team's on a run. No. It's because it's unacceptable behavior.
That's right. And right, T, that doesn't always have to be a timeout. You got that. Most teams have that guy on the team that's not the most skilled, but they got close for the ball, and that's when they go in.
That's when they go in.
And that's when you show your team you're actually meaning what you're telling them about how important efforts and standards are. Because if you're doing triage, which is, hey, you're not giving me effort and standards, let me waste the time out to beg you for what's a non-negotiable, you are picking away at your culture.
Absolutely. And it really comes in, it's related to being willing to lose games early. And that looks like benching the bucket getter with the bad attitude early. And not just give it, and not so that he recognizes, I better change my attitude and effort level early so that then they have attitude, effort, and buckets late.
Yeah. And coaches, listen to this. Like, here's how you know if you really have a standard or a principle of culture that you really believe in. And Tyler just said this. And what he said was, are you willing to lose for it? And if you're not willing to lose for it, it doesn't mean enough to you. By definition, winning means
that's
more.
The test, coach.
That's the test. That's the test.
What's your culture? What are you willing to lose for?
What do you want to lose for?
We got great culture here. We have these books, we have these notebooks, we got these t-shirts. Are you losing for that t-shirt?
1, 2, 3 family.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's not your culture. That's not your culture. Yeah, your culture is what you're willing to sacrifice for. I think that's just a wonderful articulation. Okay, we got all that out of stop calling timeouts in the NBA playoffs. We're just 20 minutes in. That's why we call this the hours, okay? Because it really is hours. All right, I'm going to share one more observation. Foul drawing wins. Like, the ability to draw fouls just wins. And it's not taught, emphasized, and rewarded enough at most levels.
Amen.
Why is it I mean, we just see it over and over again. The best players draw fouls the best teams draw fouls the best. Like, at the end of games, if you can't draw a foul, you're in trouble. But like, we go to practices, we go to like skills training sessions. They're working all these tough finishes of avoiding. Why?
I mean, that's a really $1 million question. I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people know how to teach it.
Yeah.
I don't know if players value it.
Yeah.
There are few things in basketball that are superpowers, right? Like, a team that can space consistently is a superpower. A team that has clock and reset awareness is a superpower. Teams that can, nowadays, the way the game is played, if you can have a second and third rotation that maintains your defensive integrity, it's a superpower. And a superpower for your team is the ability to get fouls early. Coaches listening, if I told you right now, that in meaningful minutes of meaningful games, you were going to have to play your eighth or ninth player. What's the first thought that goes through your head?
Oh,
Okay,
crap.
that's what you want to make other coaches feel, right? Basketball's a
Yeah.
game of opposites. You don't want to play your eighth or ninth player, then make other people play theirs. Well, how do I make people play their eighth or ninth player? By getting them in foul trouble early. Because the worst feeling every coach has is when that third or fourth foul happens in a wrong time for one of your better players, you have that look to your assistant like, what do we do? Do we go to a zone? Do I put him in? What? That's what you want to make every coach have. And that is a result of being able to attack. And I think part of that, Tyler, is, again, back to basketball being a game of opposites, we can't wait to get into the paint to get it right back out. Like, we just can't wait to draw and kick, as opposed to, hunt and hit, right? Just hunt the rim and get hit, hunt the rim and hang out in the paint in level 3 and take some contact and have body shots to the defense, and either make them foul or make them not foul, which is the same difference. So I just don't know.
And I think for teaching, it goes down to like why as well for players. I mean, every one of us is going to act according to our deepest held beliefs. And players have a deeply held belief that what's most valuable is making shots, like seeing the ball go through the net, or like highlight plays, like making tough shots. They just have a deep belief this is what's most valuable. Now, without even knowing it, that's what they try to do. Right. Whereas we have to address the why. We have to address the belief. Like, what do you believe is the goal of what I call a hunt, what most coaches call a drive? What's the goal of a hunt? Like, what are you hunting? What's your prey? And if the prey is a tough finish, then you're going to act a certain way. You're going to use a certain type of ammo. You're going to have a certain type of weapon. You're going to, right? But if the prey, if the biggest win is the foul, you're going to hunt a different way. And so I think that's what we have to address.
Yeah, I also think you asked, to your original question, like, why is that not more prevalent? I also think because it's one of those, we view getting fouls as a result of doing something else.
Yeah.
Which it is. But if you just think about the state of basketball, right? It's almost like our country in politics. Like, you have these two camps. You have the camps of so much structure, strangle you out, plays and systems wins. You have this other camp of freedom, player empowerment, and these two things can't live together. I know you and I both fall dead in the middle of both exist and both have to have each other to be successful, right? Around teaching and concepts. But I think drawing fouls falls into that because there's no black and white, do this, get that. Right. There's so much creativity that goes with that. And I think in the implementation or teaching or equipping of that, you know how messy that is? And coaches don't like messy practices. They don't like that. So fouling just becomes this result that you got to do it wrong versus we can manufacture it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a superpower that we're not tapping into.
We're not, yeah, I love the term superpower. I mean, we probably come up with a list of superpowers. And if coaches just focus more on the superpowers and less on calling timeouts at the end of games, probably win more games, be more successful. Okay, I got one last one. Then we can move off of the lessons from the play-in. Just play with more pace. Just play with more pace every single time. I mean, right, LeBron is a very visible and obvious example. Okay, if LeBron plays with pace up the floor, great things happen. When he walks the ball up the floor and dribbles at half court until 11 seconds are left on the clock, great things rarely happen. And like, it's true for him, it's true for everyone. Just continue to play with pace. And what I've seen is, especially at the end of games, in an attempt to manage the clock, you actually do what you're worse at and what you have practiced less, as opposed to what you're good at, what you've practiced most. Right? Like, if you're a team that is trying to play with pace and this is how you play, it's how you practice, how you spend the majority of your time, but then all of a sudden at the end of the game, you do something completely different, you're not as good at it, you will have worse results in an attempt to manage clock. So again, we meet in the middle on this, but just like as a general principle, it just blows my mind that we would ever stop doing what we're good at. And yet, at the end of games, NBA teams do that.
Yeah. That's such a nuance and hard one that requires such teaching, right? But I mean, we got time. All teams have time to teach these things.
Mhm.
But it goes so a couple things. One is like the misnomer of time management. Like the
Mhm.
whole point of time management is because you believe that taking the time prevents the other team from scoring.
Mhm.
But if I play with the pace and can go get a bucket and or a foul, all that does is create more time they need. So it's actually better,
It's
right?
actually
Like if I can get if I can get two in 10 seconds, wouldn't I rather that than a missed shot in 21?
yeah.
I mean, is 11 seconds worth 2 points? And
Yeah.
the answer is no.
Yeah. And here's the obvious one. Like, think about just anecdotally. I mean, there's data to back this up that I can pull, but think anecdotally, even in these recent games, the teams that are behind in the end of games, we're defining end of games here, like in the fourth quarter, more
Yep.
often than not, teams that are behind close the gap as opposed to the teams are ahead extend the gap.
Trying to hold on.
Right. It's
Right.
because of how they're playing, right? The teams that are behind play with more pace and urgency, therefore getting higher efficiency things, right? Whereas the teams are trying to hold on and play with light. Like, it's so freaking obvious. So play as if you're behind.
Well, no, but play with what got you there, right?
Play
Like
with
you didn't get the lead by now holding on to it.
yeah.
Like that's not what got it there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that's the thing though, right? That's this is like a weak conversation here, but that's part of why I see it being so hard to beat Golden State 4 times in
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks is when most teams, like you said, are controlling clock and trying to just let the clock run out on a win.
Mm-hmm.
If Steph sees that open shot, he's taking it.
Yeah.
And you know, you can get all these people that want to say that's bad shot selection, and there's a lens in which it is,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lens in which it isn't, because that shot and the ability to take that shot as a knockout punch gets the defense reacting, and it changes. You're consistently having to defend them versus, and even back to your point, if I'm gonna run the NBA doesn't do a whole lot of stall, but when you feel them trying to slow it up, they're running their sets out looking for scores. So it's a systematic stall basically.
And here's what I really hate. Just a quick interjection.
Yeah.
If rather than they're running a set, they're dribbling until an isolation in the last 7 seconds. That's what's terrible. They don't even run any action, and that's
Right.
what LeBron's terrible at. And AD and the Lakers are making me so mad with that. All right, carry on.
No. But it goes back to like what you believe in, because if the whole point is to again gain the advantage, yeah, there may be nights if you have a size or a foul issue that it is slow it up, but you
Yep.
should already know that because that's what got you the lead you're trying to preserve.
Yep.
I mean, that's what got you the lead you're trying to preserve. And there is never a bad time. Coaches, please hear this at all levels. There is never a bad or wrong time to put pressure on the defense. Period.
Yep.
I don't care what you're up by. And then what's the problem with knocking a team out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it just happens so rarely. And putting pressure on the defense does not equal shooting the ball.
No.
It just means attacking. It just means playing for advantage. Yeah. You said something years ago that's always stuck with me that, I think is a great teachable point for players. And you'll probably correct me on this one. It's like, if you if you have an advantage, shoot it. If you don't have an advantage, don't. Or something's like, don't try to create an advantage if you don't have it. Or what's the articulation that you've used?
Well, it depends on which context we're talking about. But an advantage. Well, a couple of pieces with this. I'm not sure which one you're speaking of because we've had a version of this talk a lot. So one is a shot created has to be taken, right?
Yeah.
A shot created has to be taken, and an advantage gotten has to be kept.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine a lot of coaches are thinking, yeah, but Ed, sometimes that shot created is going to be in the hands of someone I don't want shooting that shot, especially in the situation that maybe Tyler and I are referencing. No problem. That's where the advantage kept has to be kept, right? Has to be maintained. So
has
now
that's plus one.
Yeah, or driven, or driven, right? It just we create far too many advantages to restart. To restart, and that feeds right back to your start of this which was if I'm pushing up with pace. Think about that. If you have LeBron James, even at this part of his career, if LeBron can get into the first level, into the decision zone of the defense, if he can get the ball up past the timeline, going towards his basket, with a defender backpedaling, it should be over.
You call that the decision zone for any staff. We call it the read zone. It's the same thing.
Exact same thing. Mm-hmm. If he's got a guy backpedaling, it's over.
Yeah.
It should be over, right? Mm-hmm. But that goes back to the construct of their team. They don't have shooters.
Score over just means you've generated the type of stuff you want to generate. You've generated the shot or the advantage. It's over. We've already done our job.
Yeah. I'm not saying LeBron takes him. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying with that guy, having someone backpedal with that kind of space, you're going to get a better shot out of that than any set play you've run.
Yep.
Any set play you've run, because set plays are everyone sees it coming. It's a tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And on to like the advantage piece too. I mean, I do, one thing I do love about LeBron is in these clutch situations, he's going to pass for the bigger advantage. Even if it's a 33% 3-point shooter, Dennis Schroeder in the corner.
He makes the right play.
He makes the right play. And that's a bet you got to make. It's just a bet you got to make and you got to applaud. So I think that's really that part of his game is so admirable. And honestly, I would all right, tell me this. Are there 10 players in the NBA that you would take over LeBron on your team in the playoffs right now? Should we count them down or no?
On that Laker team or just any team?
Ooh, on any team. Let's go any team. I think I'd go, yeah, let's go any team. Because that Laker team is just tough.
It's just every game's going to have to go to the card. Like in boxing, every game's going to the card. Unless they get knocked out. But for them to win, it has to be by decision.
Right, yeah. I mean, Memphis is such a heavy favorite in this series. I mean, people don't even understand. Like, LeBron has to be otherworldly. Memphis has to implode. Like, yeah.
But that's going to be such an ugly series.
Yeah.
That's going to be
I'm going to watch
basketball.
Of it. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm just a sucker for LeBron because I just do. He's just great television. He's great.
Fascinating.
Television. Yeah. I mean,
let's count them down.
Okay. Let's count them down. All right.
As we sit here tonight in the playoffs.
Yeah. This season in the playoffs, any team, you go first. Who's one player you would take over LeBron? Steph. I take Giannis.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, for sure. KD.
Yeah. You know what? I would take Jokic.
Same.
Okay.
I'd probably take Embiid.
Okay, I was going to say Embiid as well. All right, here's a tough one that I'm going with. Would I take Luka Doncic over LeBron in the playoffs right now? And you wouldn't?
I wouldn't.
I would. I think I still would, but it's a conversation. Okay.
There's just too much that LeBron does well that Luka doesn't do at all.
You're right. You're right. He's just my favorite player, even though he makes me so mad. All right. Anybody else?
That's a different conversation.
I know it is. I know. He just reminds me of myself so much. Pouty.
Well, that's also a separate conversation.
All right. Anybody else you take?
Well, so this is a huge compliment to LeBron that I'm even going to question this, and a huge gap to close for the guy I'm going to mention him with.
Okay.
Tatum. Like, you should be able to say unequivocally.
I know.
But it's like almost. It's like, but you should be, like, there are points of their career where they're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to say unequivocally you would take Tatum but I'm like,
Yeah. Would you take John Morant over LeBron?
No.
I wouldn't either. Would you take De'Aaron Fox over LeBron now? Me neither. That's crazy. Like, not Sabonis. I'm just running through. Okay, number 4, Phoenix. Would you take Booker over LeBron?
No.
I wouldn't either. Or CP, right? Only KD.
No.
Right. So, okay, all right, so we're running it down. Clippers. Would you take Kawhi over LeBron right now?
If he's healthy, playing his best.
Yeah. I saw him play in person within the last week. It was not moving well.
Okay.
Didn't tap into like the extra level once, and I haven't seen him do that in a long time.
And then with that information, no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Even watching him guard LeBron at the end of the regular season, he used to be able to stonewall LeBron and stand him up, and he was not standing.
And now you need help. Right.
Yeah. So I'm going no there. Okay, let's keep running down. Warriors, we said Steph. That's the only one, I think. Is there anyone else in the Western Conference? Okay, Eastern Conference, we went through the Celtics. We know Jaylen Brown's not at that level. Going down Eastern, anybody on the Knicks? Nope, not Jalen Brunson, not Julius Randle.
Though I like Randall a lot.
I like Randle a lot.
Oh. Donovan Mitchell's.
Ooh,
he makes a really tough case for it. I mean, he's the guy with Tatum that are just two maybes.
Yep, I agree. I put him on that list. So I mean, we're at like 8, 9. So like, LeBron's still a top 10 player at 38.
Jimmy Butler, no.
Jimmy Butler, no. So, I
Trae
mean,
Young, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay, would you take Damian Lillard over LeBron?
No.
Yeah, me neither. So I mean, I think that's why he still must watch television for me. So that's a very interesting exercise.
Well, I mean, just think of it this way. If you took him off that team with a inconsistent Anthony Davis, inconsistent in terms of play and then inconsistent in terms of availability, Anthony Davis, and you took LeBron off and subbed any of the players that aren't on that list that we talked about, right? Subbed in the Ja Morants or whoever's. They're not in the play-in. They're not in the playoffs.
No.
I mean, so no. I mean, I think the only one that actually may, if you sub them out, I think the only one that actually may fit well with that system would be Luka. I think Luka and AD would actually play well together.
Yeah.
And Reeves and
they just need someone that they can throw the ball to, and he can create the advantage for them, because none of those players can create their own advantages. Yeah. Hey, Reeves has really impressed me because he's gotten aggressive.
He is, but he's going to illustrate the hell that NBA GMs live in, because someone's going to overpay him. They're going to pay him to be the third best player on a team that is guaranteed to be playing bound forever.
Yep. I mean, it's the Caruso thing. It's absolutely.
Right.
But and he has said that he wants to stay in LA and will take a discount. I don't know what'll happen, but he's definitely not the third best player. He's the 5th, 6th best player on a team.
He's the 6th man on a championship team.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and that's a big deal. I mean, that's not a little thing.
Okay, keep it on NBA talk, and then we'll shut this one down. You're the GM of the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Is your future Lillard or not Lillard? Like, how do you know? Do you sell everything to try to give Lillard a championship, or do you just ship him off and rebuild?
Define future. I mean, you're saying you can do anything. I mean, I have, obviously there are numbers involved, so it's not just as simple as do this and get that. Getting rid of him would be what I did when I knew I couldn't do anything better. I mean, it wouldn't be the first thing, obviously. But with that being said, like, this can't continue. Like, something has to be drastically different at the start of next season, right? Like, I think you got to figure out how to get rid of Nurkic, which I don't know how you do anymore.
Yeah.
And then, they put themselves into, in my opinion, into some, without help, into some timeline problems, right? Like, they got some good young pieces, like
Anthony Simons, Sharp.
Yeah. They have that are on their way, but Dame's already here, and by the time they get here, he's going to be their timelines are just off. So I think you got to get at least 1 to 2 pieces that their timeline is with Dame's, to where those other guys where they are is okay, right? Because you're asking guys to be the second and third option on a heavy team, when the truth is they need to be the ancillary parts of a really good team.
Yeah.
I think a Jaylen Brown is a huge fit if Portland could get him.
Yep.
They need length. They don't need any more small combo guards.
That's why Simon's a great player, but not at all what you need. You've got to get that value elsewhere. And I think we can bring this full circle back to what we were talking about earlier. How are you willing to lose, and are you willing to lose early? Because Portland is a great example of trying to do it all. They're trying to win now and have assets for the future. And, how do you apply this, like, to most coaches that are going to be listening to this at the high school level? Like, make some micro decisions that are in line with building a program. So if that
Right.
looks like letting that sophomore kid run, especially early in the season, even though he's making some mistakes and making some turnovers, he might be ready for you late. It might be the moment that, helps his career and him be like a great player as a junior and senior.
Right.
Like invest in those things. Get rid of that senior with the questionable attitude that might be a good player, that might get you a couple more wins, but sets your culture back. Just get rid of them.
Get rid of them. Yeah, 100% right.
Yeah, so like you can't have it both ways. You can't win every single game and improve. You just can't do it.
Can't do
So
it.
decide what you're doing. And I think that's where the Blazers are. They haven't decided what they're doing. They're trying to have it both, and they're really bad at both right now.
Yeah. Agreed. So yeah, I think they either got to figure out if they can't land a big free agent or make a trade that immediately upends everything, then you got to get rid of them. But the problem with the NBA is, I mean, you just don't ever get value for a star.
Never.
I mean, look what the Nets got for KD. I mean, look, those guys are going to try hard, but they're never going to host a playoff series.
No.
With that, I mean,
no.
So it's like,
okay, here it is. Question for you: you're the GM of the Trailblazers. Kyrie's agent calls you. No.
I don't even know what you're asking me, but no.
Oh, it's so tough. It's okay. What team in the NBA goes after Kyrie?
Seattle Supersonics. No.
Fashion team.
This is, I mean,
because he's a great player. You can't just like
so maddening,
right? He's a losing player, but a great player.
He is actually basketball wise. Straight basketball. Dallas was the worst fit for him. I mean, that's the thing. It was weird. Dallas and Philly would have been the two worst fits for him.
Yeah.
Or Portland with any kind of ball heavy. The Lakers are a really good fit for him.
Great fit for him.
I don't know what's going to happen with Westbrook, but the Clippers are a great fit for him.
Great fit. And I just don't think he's interested in going to like a rebuilding team. I don't think he's interested in going to the Magic honestly, the Heat are a great fit for him.
That was the next one I was going to say, but that's just such a clash of culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, no, I mean,
it's going to be super interesting because if I had to bet right now, I'd bet he doesn't resign in Dallas. I see just bedlam there.
No, he can't. I mean, they can't keep him and Luka happy. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, and it's always because it only takes one person to ruin this, but as a GM, how is he not on a 1-year deal performance? Like, and that should be like standard. Like everyone should know that that's what it should be. But it takes one GM to go, well, I want to do that. So now everyone else has to hop right back in. But you don't. You can go, let him go kill your team.
Right. All right. Here's my left field Kyrie thing, and then we can get your closing thoughts on NBA lessons. Sign and trade. Dallas signs him and trades him to Washington.
I agree with that.
For Bradley Beal.
Great pickup for Dallas. Great fit.
Great, right? A great fit. And so they're probably gonna have to throw in some things, right? But Washington's going nowhere. And I think that Kyrie has to be the guy. He's got to be the guy. So anyway, that's my thought.
I love that for everybody but Washington.
Right. All right. Any final thoughts? This has been awesome. There's been so many nuggets in here. I'm excited to share this one in the coming weeks. Final thoughts, nuggets. What to look for? How do you watch NBA playoff games? Why do you watch? How do you watch? What are you looking for? What should coaches be looking for?
Yeah, good question. So I'm actually today going to go get a yellow legal pad, and I'm going to this year make like, the series, right? And I'm just having notes running through that whole series. I watch for film clips that I can take away to teach. I watch for what made the result that everyone else saw happen, and I kind of break that down into how do you teach that? What are the teachable points of that? How can you get it? I try to watch it through a player development eye, then I try to watch it through a systems eye, then I try to watch it through a ownership eye of a coach. Going, do you live with that? Why would he not do that or go back to that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things coaches, that you can learn a lot from watching NBA action is they actually make you stop stuff. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times high school coaches go, well, we ran it, it worked, go to something else.
Right.
Like they will set up a similar action and get all the different reads, counters, and options off of it. So
Mhm.
it looks like 7 or different plays. But the truth is, it's really not. It's really one action they make you react to, and then they can play out of it
Mhm.
a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. And
How about you?
I would kind of summarize mine is I try to discover a team's identity
Mm.
by
Mhm.
watching them play. It's like, okay, why do they keep doing this? What must be their identity? What must be their principles? Like, what have they identified as that they're trying to actually do?
Mhm.
Because like you said, there's so many things like this. So who are we right now?
Mhm.
And I think that's just really fascinating, and everything that you said plays into that.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's so fun. And coaches, like, be like be easy on your team, because the greatest teams in the world, like Golden State's identity is get defensive, get the ball and run, get clean looks and play out of it. And they'll do it. And then they'll come down, and the Steph, who is as good as has ever been in so many ways, will come down and just hunt a horrible three and
Yeah,
shoot it, like undisciplined.
just be
Like,
out of identity. Just be out of
yeah. Yeah. So if the best teams in the world, coached by the best coach in the world, can do it, your high school team that has a lot of basketball participants can do it. Like, so just like,
Calm down. Be easy on
yeah.
yourself and them. That's a great way to
Yeah.
finish it.
And if all else fails, just call a timeout and tell them about it.
And then you'll feel better. And then you'll feel better. All right.
Nothing will change, but you'll feel better.
Right. All right, Edward, tell everybody how they can find you if they want, or what you're doing in basketball.
Yeah, sure. Website's courtsessions.com. Courtsessions.com. So we do a lot of things in basketball all around teaching. We do player development, we do coach development, team development, program curriculum development. We do some public speaking. We do virtual. We do in person. We have a IQ course we take teams or coaches through that's learning the game, ways to install those things, vocabulary. We actually have our own dictionary to really make your teaching efficient and retainable. So yeah, courtsessions.com. I hope to hear from you.
I love it. Edward's one of the best I know to do it. I'm Tyler. This is The Hours, and we'll be back. Edward will be back, as well as some other guests, as we just spend the hours in order to reap the benefits. All right. Thanks, everybody.